Greetings. My name is Catherine Baird, and I am the CEO of Ethics Game and one of the designers of Hot Topic Simulations. Today, I'd like to take you through an overview of Hot Topic Simulations, show you some of the features, and talk about how you can be most successful in completing this task. As we go now to the Ethics Game site itself, we begin with the first page of a Hot Topic simulation. In this page and on this page, you find a bit of information about your tasks. But before we get going, let me share with you what is on the up on the menu bar itself. Under Case Files and Memos, you will have the ongoing fact patterns that I'll show you on page 3. If you go to the ethical lenses, you will see a list of the various lenses that are going to be used. For the first dilemma, you'll be using the responsibilities lens and the results lens. For the second dilemma, the relationship lens and the reputation lens. If you were to click on ethical perspectives, you would see this particular page, which walks you through what the difference is among ethical perspectives. The research shows us that ethical dilemmas come when we have values in tension. And as we then take on the different ethical perspectives from the theories that have been part of our conversation for more than 3,000 years, we ask different questions and we get different results as we work your way through these situations. Now, if you took the ethical lens inventory in your class, you'll already have a head start on the kind of information that you need to take a look at the different lenses. For a little bit of a deeper dive, you can go into the responsibilities lens, which will then show you all the different questions that get asked and give you an overview of the tasks that you will face when you work your way through this particular ethical dilemma. You'll notice that we have be attentive, be intelligent, be responsible, and be reflective. These are parts of what is known as the Baird decision model. As I began to work with teaching students how to do ethical decision making, I realized that there was a very specific process that was very useful. Our approach has you ask questions to begin to see what the parameters are for appropriate decision making. And it takes you very intentionally through 2 different ethical lenses for each problem in order to see the differences. As you're being attentive, you're going to be asked to pay attention to the context, to the facts, and then to identify the issue. You will then go through each of the 4 lenses in order to take a look at how the values in tension and the stakeholders play out. Moving then into being responsible, you will have a set of questions, a set of criteria, if you will, that are used for each of the 4 lenses. And then you will be asked to make a decision. When you make a decision, you have 2 decisions to make. One, what is the best option for this lens? And then finally, what option do you think is the best? So with that overview, let's go back to this particular page. Over here, we have a help button, which is going to give you information about the technical side of this particular problem. And so this, on each page, you will have a help button. So if you get stuck, you'll be able to manage and to ask the technical questions, not the theory questions. Over on this side, we see a little icon with a book that says, click me. This is where you get information for the content. Each one of these postings gives you a little bit more background on the page that you're being asked to look at and the task you're being asked to complete. And finally, if you really get stuck, you can contact us. The person you will reach is Rex Humston, who is our game master, and he will be able to answer technical questions as well as some of the basic questions of the Hot Topic simulation. And then finally, right here underneath my picture, it looks like there is something called points. Each page where you have a task, you will get a certain number of points. This is our little slight gamification. Now, this game was designed because my kids play Dungeons and Dragons, and we had this notion of getting points and moving ahead. And what I realized as I watched them play their various role games is that they do it to failure and then they start all over again. Now, none of you have the patience to do this to failure and start over and over again until you master it. But by seeing the progress that you make, you get a slight sense of how well you are navigating this particular dilemma and how well you are answering the questions. All right, with that as our background, let's take a look at the first page. In the first sentence, you have a person whose name is Ryan Brown. She is the ethics coach. And all the way through this simulation, she'll be guiding you as your fictitious coach in helping you resolve the problems. We begin then to take a look at what it is that we are trying to accomplish. And the notion down here on the tips for success becomes really important. The game is moving quickly. It shouldn't take you very long on each page. You've got lots of information available, and so you can move on. So let's go to the next page. On page 2 of both the first dilemma and the second, you get some ethical theory. On this particular page, you get a little bit about the ethical lenses. You get a little bit about values and tension. And again, ethical dilemmas come when you have two good values, both of which are important, but they are in conflict in a way that you can't resolve both of them. And what we want to learn to do is to be in harmony as we answer and work our way through these tensions. All right, moving then we get to our facts. And on the facts, we have the notion of being attentive, the first step of the ethical decision making. You have a little bit here about the role that you're going to be playing. You've got a little bit of background on the problem itself, and then you go to an inbox. Now, I designed this with an inbox because when I was working at Regis University and teaching, I never had anybody come up to me and say, "Hi, Catherine, here is a scenario of ethical dilemmas you're going to be facing in the next couple of months, and let's give you a background." Rather, they came to me out of nowhere, and I had to learn to pay attention to what was going on in my world to notice when I was upset or there was a disquiet that helped me or made me know that it was time to pay attention. We have your job description. Every job in an organization has a description that lays out the responsibilities of that task or that position. Every job has ethical responsibilities that go with it, a place where you as a decision maker can make a difference. We also have policies. These are the pieces of the organization that govern how you are supposed to do your work. And this will give you some insight into the problem that you're facing. And then you have emails. The emails come from human beings. They have an ethical perspective. They have ethical blind spots. And you have to piece together all of the information in order to get a good sense of what is going on. Armed now with the context, we move to our first decision piece. Now, every page that we have is laid out in about the same way. You see where you are in the process. You've got 44 pages. You're on page 4. You see what step you're in. You see what the task is. And then you get a little bit of information. The first paragraph of each page is a little soap opera and a little bit of information about what your task is. This page is about the issue. And so the next paragraphs are to tell you how to identify an issue. Now, I've watched students do this, and they tend to go, okay, the best statement of the issue will, and skip all the way down then to the task, which is which issue frames the values intention the best. Now, because I'm a bit on the sneaky side, if you read these sentences in between, you're going to get some real strong hints about how to answer the questions better. So I just invite you to take the few minutes to read and reflect on the instructions and on the information we have given you. You then come down, you have a question, how do you frame the values intention? And then after you answer it, you go to the next page. Now, on the next page, we give you the answers and whether they are correct or incorrect. The notion behind this experiential learning is that if we do what we call and response, you have a little bit of information about the problem, you have a task to accomplish, feedback about that task, you will learn the process much better and much more easily. And you'll notice we have incorrect, an acceptable statement, a good statement, a poor statement, and a best statement. In this process, we are going to be encouraging you toward ethical maturity. And as you come to the best statements of any of these, it's always going to be a systemic approach to the problem, a systemic approach that will help you understand and to see a broader perspective than just down into the very narrow space. All right, moving rapidly along, we then go to our next page, which is our next task. We are now down into the tasks of determining the stakeholders. Now, this page turns out to be the most difficult page of all of them in the assignment, because we're not used to thinking about all the people that our ethical decisions a task, are all of the people that our ethical decisions affect. So you're going to want to take a look at it, and we have two categories: primary stakeholders, secondary stakeholders. Again, read this, think about it, and then come and choose 6 primary stakeholders and 6 secondary stakeholders. Moving your way through, we then end and go to the next page, where we show you if you were right, wrong, or indifferent as you answer the questions. From there, we now move into answering the dilemma. We have the responsibilities lens, and if you click on this icon right here, you will get the information that is up in the ethical lenses up in this box here. So you'll have a way of refreshing your memory or learning for the first time what that lens is. We begin to move down, again, some information about the lens, and we have now the criteria for this lens. The responsibilities lens is all about duties. What are our responsibilities to each other? And again, you go and you answer them, you get your next page. And then when you get through that, you have your first choice of making a decision. As you come to this point, you will have a review of the duties that have been established for the problem, and you'll have a description of a best option, a good option, and a poor option. And then you'll be asked to choose an option. Now, this is not what you would do. This is not what you think is the best, but you will be looking at it from this perspective, from the perspective of the responsibilities lens. What am I supposed to be doing? And these words like showing respect for his side, which happens to be coming out of the results lens, will give you some hints as far as what the best option is. You see, when we make an ethical decision, we have 2 things that are part of it. One is what we actually do, and the second is the reason for acting, the reason we tell others that this action was correct. And what we do when we tell people what action is correct is to give them hints about our ethical perspective by the words we choose to justify our actions. And so this process helps you begin to understand the differences among the lenses. You then get to the next page. It tells you if you hit the options correctly. In this one, I have the best option, the wrong lens. I happen to choose the results lens instead of the responsibilities lens. And then I move forward to the next space. All right, we now go into the results lens and we work our way through the differences with stakeholders again. Now, this one is really kind of interesting because each stakeholder is affected differently. So again, as you get the task, you'll get some information about how to answer the question, and you'll be able to then move forward. And again, you have the same piece. We have the impact, we have a review, we have our ethical desires, we have our reviews, and then we go into the next time where we're going to be choosing an option, which is now, given that these people will be affected in this way, what option is the best for this lens? And you go and you see, did you get it this time? And the answer is good option, wrong lens. It has fair process, but it doesn't, in fact, give us what we need to do to answer this question. And so we end up then having chosen these 2, and we move into the final decision. Now, you may not have liked any of the options we chose. You may like one option better than the other. This is where you get to choose which option you want to have as your final option. And so you choose the option, and then the next page is a really important page because this is where you get to tell people why you made the decision the way you did. As you're reflective, you made the decision to because the rules are clear, to send a memo to the partners outlining the relevant facts. You then go and work your way through a very typical business memo. Who are you going to send the memo to? What is the purpose of this communication? The next step is to give a little bit of information about the background, 400 words. And if you have forgotten any of the background, up here under case files and memos, you can get a copy of the various facts that need to be done for that memo to refresh your memory about what was going on. If you get down here then and you move into what your decision was and your reason for your decisions, you are asked to use the language of the ethical framework or the principles that you use to come to your decision. And again, as you noticed when I was at the very bottom, you can go down here and go back to any one of these pages that you've already gone to and review, what did we say about ethical desires? What did we say about the rights and responsibilities lens? And then as you finish, you give a reason that you have acted in this particular way, a reason for encouraging people to behave in a particular way. All right, we then go to the next page, which is an evaluation page. We talk about what the best responsibilities lens was, what the worst one was. And you'll notice here we have, because the rules are clear as the best for the responsibilities lens, for the GBioSport results lens to help them be the best that they can be, which are words that come out of those value statements. So you can review this and see what the different options were and really begin to see the differences among the two. And then we take you down to the final page, which is called case closed. Now, when I first designed this, I called it the orange jumpsuit page, because this is the place where we really talk about the way the law intersects with this particular problem. You give a little bit of story, you begin to see what possible repercussions there are. One of the things we know about ethical decision-making is we have no idea how people are going to respond to us. And so as we begin to imagine how this might fall out, our writers have begun to think about, if you'd made a really great decision, what might happen. If you made a really bad decision, what might happen. Then and only then do we begin to talk about the law. Each of the fact patterns we have, each of the dilemmas we have, has a law that goes with it. And that law is designed to help us understand the boundaries that the community has set on the action. Within those boundaries, we had 6 different options that you could follow, all of which were perfectly ethical. And so we begin to understand that ethical action is not determined completely by the law. The law just gives us edges that we bounce against. The other part that we want you to pay attention to is emerging trends. As we begin to see where people are violating the rules, as we begin to see new situations where we have different rules, then we wind up with having to understand what's going to be happening in the future. As we go through great changes, as we have new circumstances arise, as we have new challenges as human beings, we have different responses that flow from them. And to be a good leader, you're expected to sort of look out on the horizon a little bit to see what's moving and what's changing and where do you need to moderate your behavior so you don't find yourself like some of the people who did sexual harassment about 5 or 7 years ago suddenly in the spotlight, with now bringing back into our attention things that were done before and things that people should have been paying attention to were inappropriate behaviors. So that takes you through our simulations. We then get to the next page, which is where you get your introduction into the next dilemma. If your faculty member has told you to stop and to wait until you proceed to the next class, please exit. And if not, you can continue into dilemma number 2, the case of the clever pitch. So we hope that this has given you an overview for how the hot topic simulations work. Every simulation is designed the same. Every simulation has the same pattern as far as the pages. And so each of them is designed to help you become as successful as you can be. We make the process go over and over again, which may seem repetitive, but it is only as we practice engaging our imagination into what we could do that we begin to build what is called ethical resilience, We know we can handle the situation. We've practiced doing it before, and we now have confidence that when we are faced with a situation that we had not anticipated, we will have moral courage and be able to act with confidence and explain to others what we have done. Again, it is our privilege to be able to share this information with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any member of the team, gamemaster@ethicsgame.com, or I'll be at cbaird@ethicsgame.com. Thank you for using this, and we hope you enjoy your experience.